from the jungles. But they are also viruses that the Soviet Union took and they developed. And not only did they develop tons and tons of the material that they put in warheads and so forth, they also did biochemical tricks to them to, they believe, make them harder to resist and harder for vaccines to work against them. And with the crumbling of the Soviet Union, not all of these stocks of these germs have been accounted for. So plague is also something that's scary. It wouldn't be spread primarily in the form that we know of it as the Black Death, but would be spread through the air by a bioterror attack, and that would cause a kind of pneumonitis, an inflammation of the lungs from breathing it, and then sepsis, fever, and death in many cases.
You also had some interesting stories in your bioterrorism books. One about a scientist who basically was left to die.
Yes, that was somebody who was working for the Soviets, and he was helping to develop their tons of hemorrhagic fever viruses. And while he was working with it, he accidentally pricked himself with a needle. And that one little prick caused him to just die. They put him in behind glass doors, and his wife was able to come and visit him and just watch him gradually bleed and bleed to death. There's no cure. Even the people who were working with it didn't have a vaccine for it. It's a scary material, very scary.
Well, I have gotten a little scared hearing about all of this, reading about it. So should I feel safe? Are different departments of Homeland Security and medical departments, the military, is everybody working together on this? Is there any coordinated effort to recognize and deal with the problem?
Well, there is some effort, but I can tell you that a lot of things have really gotten off track. For example, theoretically, the federal government appropriated money to the states to work on public health training programs. Well, the states and the cities and so forth, they changed the destination of that money. They, let's say, perhaps did an assessment of their needs for training with it, so that they have a wonderful report about what they need to do, but they didn't use the money to do anything about it. Or I just read 2 days ago in the newspaper that the city of Newark took the money and spent it on garbage trucks. So,
well, we'll clean up another problem.
Yeah, so it'll clean up another problem. I mean, you know, my apologies to anybody from Newark, but you might say that some of the factories around Newark might be as much of a problem as some of these other things. But,
now, we only have a couple of minutes left, and of course, you have focused with your bioterrorism certificate program with those 7 major diseases and bioterrorist threats. Are there some others that may be coming our way that we don't really know about? I mean, is it possible that somebody's finding something out in the wild and going to be able to create some sort of havoc?
Well, I think the main problem is what the Soviets already were starting to do. They were trying to create what's called chimera viruses, which is what I was telling you about, altering them genetically so that they might carry other problems along with them. So they might try to implant a gene, let's say from smallpox, in an Ebola virus, so that the Ebola virus, if it didn't turn your body to mush, you'd also get smallpox at the same time. So part of that is to throw the defense off guard by maybe making somebody think you have anthrax, but you really have something else too. So that's a real big problem, and that's something I point out in these books, and that's why public awareness is so important, and that's why I made these training programs and books and CDs so that they're very readable for the average person, and they're highly available, whether it's on Amazon or on Atlas Books, which is our major distributor, that people can get hold of these and become part of the public health effort, because it's not enough just for the government to do things, and very often the government doesn't act in the most coordinated manner, as we know from the 9/11 attacks.
So how do you really define bioterrorism?
The use of any biological agent to create injury or mayhem, panic. You know, a lot of the problems can come from just the panic Sometimes it's actually easier to contain a smallpox outbreak if everybody stays still than if people get scared and start running, because some of the people who start running can carry it with them.
We've talked about the major problems to our health. We only have a few seconds. What about to the environment?
It's a disaster to the environment in some cases. There's still an island off of England where they did anthrax testing where, during World War II. They were preparing whether or not to use anthrax against the Germans, and they experimented on an island, and the island is still off limits today, I believe. So there are a lot of environmental effects, and radiation effects can linger for many, many years afterwards.
So we certainly have our water quality, air quality, and natural environment to be concerned about with bioterrorism as well.
And our own personal quality
of our life, definitely. Thank you so very much for educating us about what we have to be very much more aware to be able to protect ourselves. Thank you so very much for being my guest.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
I have been speaking with ophthalmologist Dr. Daniel Farb, who is also CEO of the University of Healthcare and University of Business, and author of Bioterrorism Certificate Program Manual and CD. And for viewers who would like more information or a free sample copy of the Compendium newsletter, an address and telephone number will be on the screen at the end of the credits. We love to hear from you, so please call or write. And be sure to join us again for another edition of Eco News, your best source of current environmental news that affects you and your future. On behalf of our nonprofit organization, Educational Communications, thank you for your support. I'm Nancy Perlman, wishing you a natural, unspoiled environment.